Welcome to the D1 Diary. I'm Madison Donnelly.
And I'm Skyler Shellmeyer.
This podcast is to give current and former athletes at the collegiate or professional level the light to share their individual and personal stories about life during athletics and everything behind the scenes.
Although the landscape of college athletics is ever changing, we want to give these athletes the opportunity to discuss the real thoughts and effects of what happens inside the minds of collegiate athletes.
Welcome back to the D1 Diary. We don't have a guest this week, so Skyler and I are going to be covering partying and athletics.
Just a quick disclaimer, we do not condone underage drinking, and please drink responsibly if you choose to do so.
Whatever age you are, drink responsibly, but starting out, we're going to cover how being a collegiate athlete and drinking impacts your social life, especially in terms of partying. Everyone's excited.
You're freshly 18.
You're thrown in with all these people that are exactly like you. You're meeting people for the first time. Everyone's socializing.
Yeah. And I remember us doing a mandatory training for alcohol and drinking in the beginning, like right when you get to campus. Yep. And one of the facts was how it's perceived that everyone in college partakes in consuming alcohol, but reality, it's a lot lower number than you think. It's like 40% or something like that.
Exactly.
And it's a good fact to know. Just because it seems like everyone's doing it, everyone is not doing it, and you need to make your own choice and whether you partake or not.
I will argue, I think it's probably harder for a student athlete than someone that's not a student athlete, because you are on a team with more organized events, and then also you're just a tight-knit group, the athlete community in general.
Yeah.
And so you're also hanging out with other teams. There's just a lot more organized things. I guess if you think of like fraternities and sororities.
Yeah, I would say it's very similar.
They have, all their weekly events or formal parties. The athlete community also does that in their own ways.
I would say it varies where you go to school and how close you are to the other athletes and what things that group can offer for you or not offer for you. But I would say, speaking from our experience, I do think it was very unique to be an athlete, especially with how close the athletes were to each other, that it did provide a lot of opportunity to connect with each other off the field, I'll say, doing fun social events like partying and drinking.
We were already a small school, about 8,000 undergrad.
Yeah.
I think about 550 are athletes. One that's like the size of a high school, the entire athlete community. And so when you're that close, sometimes it felt like high school to me, totally. Except everyone lives there and you get to eat lunch with everybody every meal and hang out after school.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of fun like all the time. It's important because stepping onto campus with no parents and having all these new people, new faces, and new experiences and just freedom, it can be dangerous. Overwhelming and like dangerous because some people come in, they don't know their boundaries. I'm wondering, how do you think being a college athlete maybe has impacted your social life in terms of partying and doing other things other than playing your sport?
Yeah, I think it's nice to have obviously built-in friends being on a team.
Definitely.
Whether you come onto the team and you make instant best friends, or it takes you a season or it takes you a year. There are girls I didn't become close with, I think, until our senior year, honestly.
Yeah, same.
Because they were very different from me, and then you're there for 4 years, so people mature and change and you'll click later. But because you spend so much time with them, I think eventually you do just become friends. Certainly there are people I'd never crossed that line with, I don't think, and it's more of like an acquaintance thing, and I see you at practice and that's it.
Yeah.
But usually you are going to develop a few pretty close friendships with people you see every day.
I would totally agree. Even in my class, we had 8 of us, and there was 3 of us who instantly became really, really close because we like to kind of indulge in the same things outside of practice. We like to go out, we like to meet new people and have a good time, where there was other people in my class that I feel like I wasn't as close with until we got older and matured and figured out, we don't need to like the same things or doing the same things outside of practice to still be friends.
Exactly.
Is that what you were talking about?
Yes, or even immediately coming from high school. A lot of girls are cliquey in high school, and maybe you will just hang out with those immediate connections, like right when you step foot on campus. But then as time goes on, you realize you kind of want to even branch out more and, spend time with a variety of people.
I'm wondering how maybe you managed to balance kind of work and play, I'll call it. Did you have maybe some challenges that you ran into? You had to get your stuff done in school and in sport, but what about the time where you didn't have any of those two things? Like, how did you balance that?
Yeah, for me, college, we went to a top 10 school academically. Mm-hmm. Athletics were really challenging, but it's still more free time than I had ever had in high school, which I think is
especially
huge...
for you.
Yes.
You weren't commuting
exactly
4 hours a night just to practice.
So for me, I was like, wow, all the high school teachers have been warning you, college is going to be so hard academically and you're going to have no time. You need to learn how to like get organized. Maybe this is really bad advice, but I got to college and I was like, wow, this is so easy. I was like, yeah. I have hours to study. Like I'm only in class for 3-4 hours a day instead of 8. Not saying it's easy, but you have more flexibility and freedom to make your day the way you want it to be.
I agree. I really enjoyed being on my own. I didn't have anyone telling me what I can and can't do. I felt like it was really freeing for me, and I showed myself that I can do this. I can balance work and play, and I can manage. Like, I'm okay. But I will say, like, people who come in and have no idea how to do that,
True.
Like, it's so overwhelming for them. Like, I can't even imagine.
Or if you don't prioritize the things you need to do,
exactly,
then you're just gonna fall apart.
Totally.
And if you do indulge too much socially, obviously your grades are gonna suffer and your athletic performance is gonna suffer. So I think it is just a delicate balance of obviously getting what you need to do done and then being able to have the freedom to go do that other stuff.
I agree. And my dad, when I was growing up, he always kind of used this analogy for me. It's like life is like a triangle, and you can only pick 2 of the 3 things in this triangle. And in my triangle, I always had sports, school, and my social life. And it's extremely hard. If you kind of look back in your life and think about the triangle of things that you prioritize, you'll notice how it kind of ebbs and flows. But when you try to combine all 3 things or do all 3 things,
it doesn't really work.
It doesn't work, and you get extremely overwhelmed.
Right.
And so I definitely had those moments in college where I'm like, I'm doing too much of all 3. I need to back off. When you're in off season, yeah, your sport's almost like dimmed down. School's always going to be there, but then your social life can kind of pick up. And then when you're in season, it kind of like reverberates back to
I think the triangle is such a good analogy because when you're in off season and you have one less day of practice a week and you're not traveling for games every weekend,
half the hours you have to go to practice,
that is the season where people tend to indulge more socially,
which can be
a good and bad thing.
It's good to have that time to kind of make memories with your teammates off the field, which I think is where you build trust or even lose trust.
We had a week called Reading Week, and it was a whole week kind of study. All of your classes were more review sessions, varied on, what your major was. Some harder majors used that week for more homework type stuff. Some other majors were completely done finals by that week.
Yeah.
But mostly if you fell in the middle, you had Reading Week to study.
There was literally no class, and when you combine off season and no class,
it was just a week of fun.
It was a lot of fun. But, I would say I think a lot of teams, and I think this kind of goes back to our comparison with frats and sororities, a lot of teams would have formals at our school where the whole team they would get dates, and then you'd rent a party bus, and then you'd rent somewhere to go, and the whole school would end up being there. Like, all the athletes would go to this one place.
Usually happened on Reading Week.
Exactly. But this is, again, going back to the balance. If you have to kind of, it's almost like an art to balance your fun during that week,
right,
and the stuff you had to study for, because you had finals the very next week. So it's like, okay, do I study for my final or do I go party with my friends?
Also, you're not partying every night of that week. Usually it's you're studying, if you're smart, the first beginning of that whole week, but you have this super fun event that you can kind of let loose for during that week without any repercussions, because you don't have practice the next day and you don't have an 8 a.m. class.
And I remember, this is kind of a good piece of advice for anyone out there who's going into college or even experiencing their first semester at college, and you're an athlete and trying to learn how to balance this. But I had my planner out, and I would plan my entire week in reading week of like all the stuff I had to get done school wise, and then I would literally carve out time for when I was gonna party. I vividly remember being like, party, and then drag an arrow for like 4 hours. So like it was already blocked in there, but I had to get all my other stuff done for the week before I could do that.
So yeah, I did something similar. I think you had a way more normal approach. What I did in college,
Oh, no.
no, it's not bad. It's just odd. So you have so much thrown at you. You have a practice in the morning, usually a lift. Sometimes you have an individual with your coach. Sometimes you have film. We had classes, and then we had discussion groups for those classes. As a freshman, we had library hours. We had all this stuff going on. And then you might have outside stuff for extracurriculars or whatever on top of that. So every day in my notes app, I would literally 7 to 8 a.m. breakfast, into 10 a.m. class, 10 to 11 another class, 11 to 11:30 I need to go get lunch, 11:30 to 12:30 another class. Like by the hour in my notes app.
In your notes, you did that.
And I would screenshot my notes app and make it the background of my phone as my screensaver every day of college. I did this every day.
Until you graduated?
Till I graduated.
No way.
Sometimes I still do this outside of school because you are on your phone so much.
Yeah.
So there's no...
You just see it all the time.
You see it throughout the entire day. There's no way for you to forget if it's 9 p.m. and you're responding to a text. Oh shit, I have that assignment still due. I need to go do that.
That's not crazy at all. In fact, I'm probably going to tell my students to do this.
Yeah, you should. I mean,
so many of them are like, I forgot to do my discussion response.
Oh, you won't forget if it's the background of your screensaver on your phone.
You're so right.
But I would like open my phone or like click the screen, and people would be like, Madison, like what is your background?
I honestly think I remember doing that for you. I was like, tapped your phone, and
people are like, what?
What the hell?
And I will say, like, I'm training for another marathon right now. Want to know what my screensaver is?
Your training plan.
It is my training plan, and every week I go and cross off a week so I know where I'm at and what day I need to be running that many miles.
That's actually such a smart tip. I'm not even kidding. Like, I might use that myself.
Yeah, and it works.
And I think that's the big thing too. It's like you have to find what works for you. So my planner is my holy grail, and Madison was her notes app and putting it as her background or her screensaver. So you really do have to find what planning tool that works for you that will help you manage the balance of work,
You do need a
play.
plan, though. If you think you'll just remember, you won't.
No, you will not. Please write it down. Write it down.
Whether that's plans to go meet your friend at lunch after class, or you have an additional film session that week on Thursday that you just think you'll remember because you never have film that week, or whatever, you won't remember. You'll forget. Also, there are times Skyler and I saved each other during college. I think it was, for you as freshman year, I think it was in the very beginning, you were exhausted, fell asleep, we were roommates, and I thought I remember Skyler mentioning to me she had a meeting at like 6 p.m. I think it was 5:50, and I was like, oh, I thought she has a meeting. I don't want to wake her up. We were like freshly roommates, and I was like, oh, do I wake up my roommate? I thought she had a meeting, but I don't want to be weird, and if you didn't have a meeting, I would have felt terrible. But I was like, oh, I don't know, I think she has a meeting. So I think I ended up waking you up, and you were like, oh shit, I gotta go.
Dude,
that's
crazy.
But there was another time in college, I don't know if you remember this one, I think this was like sophomore year, we were indulging. I had come home first and like fell asleep.
Did you have practice the next day?
I had practice early the next morning, and for some reason you were like, I don't think Madison set an alarm. Yeah. Do you remember this?
Yes, I do.
Skylar set an alarm for me, and I would have slept through practice. And that's a huge no-no. My notes app screensaver could not have saved me on that one.
When you go out in college in athletics, you kind of have to plan, like, what am I doing the next day? If you have
lay out your outfit, water bottle, whatever
set
you
your
need.
alarm before you go out.
Especially if you're doing this the night before a practice.
Which we do not support.
we don't support, but if it happens, be super smart about it. Obviously it does happen to some people, but they usually plan it for early morning lift, something that is not going to need as much brain power. If you know you have a recovery yoga session, something like that. Usually if it's a really important practice,
you probably should not be going out the night before.
Or like game day. That's an obvious one.
I actually will say, I think across the board, every single athlete is like, yeah, no.
I agree.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts.
You will lose all of your teammates.
Totally.
If they find out, and you just, why would you do that in general? I mean, I feel like most teams have a rule around alcohol. Some teams are like, do what you want, make your own choices, which I agree is a good method, because honestly, we all know that alcohol impacts your sleep, impacts recovery,
performance, like inflammation, like literally every
ability to make decisions in a timely manner. You could just be a few seconds off, but you might lose that tackle or that hit or whatever in your game because you went out the night before.
Exactly.
So, you know, you choose your own journey with that, because you have to gauge how you're going to prep yourself for what's important and what you're going to prioritize.
I think this is kind of a good segue into specific guidelines or rules that college athletes maybe are expected to follow regarding partying, and maybe how strictly they are enforced. But I'm wondering, what were your team rules regarding partying and drinking?
I would say every season we had pretty much a dry season besides our bye weekends. So these are in-season weekends. You do not have games. Those would be designated green light. It's okay if you go to a party weekend. And on top of that, I'll say, I remember my freshman year, we really wanted to make it to the NCAA, and we did. Our seniors were really hard on this drinking rule, to the point that you could still go out to a party, but you're not supposed to be drinking. You can go out and socialize. No one's going to stop you. But they had other seniors on other sports, or other people on other sports, come up to some people that they thought might be breaking it and kind of like assess how with it they were, to see if they were breaking a rule or not.
How did that rule impact your team chemistry? Was it like, oh, I don't like F this is stupid? Or was it like, okay, yeah, we're with it?
So we had a situation when I was a freshman that I wasn't part of this. A group of freshmen went and drank wine in their dorm, because that's a situation that they couldn't really be found out.
You.
Exactly, except it still slipped through the cracks because one girl drank too much wine and then went somewhere and someone saw her. I think if you're breaking the rules and you're in an environment where you are surrounded by your teammates and other athletes that are aware of such rules, word of mouth. So just be really smart, because even if you're like trying to go around some of these things, it usually doesn't work out.
No, it'll come right back to you. I have a story.
Go ahead.
So for softball, we had like 2 seasons. We had our fall season where we played like maximum of 8 games, but they didn't really matter. And I will say things weren't as strictly enforced, and it wasn't like a big deal if you broke the rule, I guess. But anyways, we had a 48-hour rule of drinking that was mentioned in our team rule book, our handbook. So when we're in season for softball, you have no time to do that. So it's not even a question whether people are going to or aren't going to. You just don't have time, because we play Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So it's not going to happen. People don't even think about it. It's mostly the fall is where trouble can happen. My senior year, so of age, it was during homecoming. It was a homecoming football game, and we played the next day for a fall doubleheader. So these games weren't going to count towards the record. They didn't matter. But there was definitely a group of us who decided to actively break our rule. Granted, we're all of age, but we decided to break our team rule, and it bit us in the ass. I've never seen my coach so mad at us. It was so bad. And I don't exactly remember how she found out, but that was very much a low point for me. And I think this is that was a good learning lesson for myself and my teammates. And I think from then on, we didn't break it again. And it took until my senior year to kind of it's kind of crazy how I broke it my senior year. I didn't even think about it way back when, but like, now that I'm my senior year, and I owned up to it to my team and everything. But
Honestly,
yeah.
I think there's a situation on my team. I think it was a 5th year.
Wow.
That came to practice, and we had really hard fitness at the end of practice. She was clearly hungover and puked after the fitness. She still went through practice, went through the fitness, but obviously she wasn't puking because of the fitness. I think she ended up having to apologize to the coach. Not quite sure, but I think it's hard when, one, me and you, we were different seasons. So I know for me it was hard coming in the fall, seeing you guys have so much fun.
Yeah.
I'm stressed because of season. Maybe you're not playing that much,
Totally.
so that's another element. So if you're like, oh, if I'm not going to play, why do I have to abide the same rules as everybody else? That's an element that's hard. And then if you're friends with other sports and you want to hang out with them and join.
I can't even imagine how hard that was for you freshman fall, just because I know how rowdy my team is and my class specifically, and you were around us all the time. And you had a really strict drinking rule. I don't know how hard that was for you.
Yeah, it was really hard.
Yeah, I bet.
It's not an easy thing to follow all the time.
I will say, I think it depends what sport you play. For softball, we just traveled so much in the spring that I didn't even have FOMO. I thought I would have so much FOMO in the spring, but you just don't, because you're so in it and you're so busy and you just don't have time. You physically don't have time to do it.
Because you guys were gone Thursday through Sunday.
Yeah, we were here 3 days a week.
So you were like never here when like parties were happening.
Yeah, and even if we were gone when stuff was happening, we had each other and we were all going through it.
That's the other thing. So when these teams put these rules in place, the idea is that you're going through it together.
Yeah, totally.
And so with my bye weekend rule, it was kind of a celebration. You've been following the rules, and now here's your weekend. We all did this together. Now we can all celebrate together.
Definitely. That's one of the more rewarding things that comes from just like being on a team and, going out together or not going out together. Because if you don't go out together and then you eventually do it all together, you choose to collectively make that decision, it's like way more fun.
Oh, 100%.
Worth it.
There's nothing like, now that I'm graduated, being able to just go out with that large group of people that you are so close with.
Definitely.
And
nothing
hang out.
compares now.
No.
But I will say, now that I'm done, and any time my team or my people who graduated that we get together, or even players that are still there, but when we get together, it's a riot. It's crazy because
it kind of like takes you back to college.
It takes you back to college. You just like feel invincible, and you're with your best friends who like went through all this hard stuff together, and it's like you'll never have that again once you leave college. But then you get that back for like a weekend. You're like, oh my god, this is so much fun. Like, it's so much fun.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Pick and choose your moments, because it is super special to be able to hang out with that many people. You for sure do not need to drink. I had a teammate that would come out on our bye weekends and have apple juice or like a Diet Coke, and
I think that's
we all supported her.
That's a really good point you make. You do not need to submit to peer pressure or go along just because everyone else is, having a good time and drinking. Doesn't mean you can't have a good time and not drink. Yeah, go out, go hang out with your friends, bond with your teammates, but yeah, don't partake if you don't want to. That's a decision you have to make alone.
And then I think just the decision to go to all the socialized events is interesting, because I had a rule that I gave myself in the beginning of college to say yes every time I was invited somewhere.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
So
it could be kind of a double-edged sword.
Exactly.
Like. Yeah.
So that's why I kind of want to talk about it.
Yeah.
I think it was good for me freshman year.
Totally.
Because I went and tried all these things or hung out with all these people. But then I did notice as I got older and an upperclassman, now I don't feel the need to go do all those things.
Fair.
And I think some people could feel that way as a freshman. I didn't. I wanted to go do all those things, so I did. But if you don't have to go to everything you're invited to. Definitely if that's not your personality or you're having a bad day, don't let the FOMO thing get to you. Much easier said than done.
Yeah. I think that's a good point too. And I almost feel like the majority of people experience it in the same kind of lifespan. When you get to college, you're doing all these things. You're never saying no. You're always saying yes. And then when you get older, you're like, whoa,
Do I actually
like,
want to be doing that?
do I actually want to do this? And I feel like there's a kind of a middle ground or a gray area where you're like, I don't want to do this, but I feel like I have to. And then you go and you have a horrible time.
Exactly.
And
So
then, yeah.
it's hard because my freshman year, I would say yes to a lot of things. I was completely overbooked myself socially.
90% of the time, it was worth it.
Yes, but then sometimes you get into situations where I saw this happen all the time on my team. Someone would agree to go somewhere, some party, but then there's something else happening that they want to go to, and then they say yes to them. Then they wait to figure out what's actually happening,
Like,
who
which
the
one are they going to
most people are going to, and that gets tricky because then you're like hurting people's feelings. Or I would tell my boyfriend at the time, yeah, we're gonna hang out tonight, and then there'd be an event, and then there'd be an event, and I was like, oh, actually I have to go do this, and he's like, but you told me yes, and I was like, yeah, but I also told this person and this person yes, and he was like, why do you do this?
I think I definitely have done that too. Just said yes to 2 different groups of people and then
waited to see what came
which
to
developed, like actually developed.
Yes, which isn't exactly fair.
No, I think it kind of goes to like the people pleasing trait. Like you don't want to tell people no, and then you get to a point where you're kind of overwhelmed and you have to tell people no.
Yes, and then it's like this guilt thing.
Yeah, you might as well have just said no in the first place, you know?
Right. So I don't know. If you're someone that you think you need to put yourself out there, maybe you try the yes thing for a week or a month and see how you like it. Not a whole year. You'll be very stressed. I was a very stressed freshman.
Totally. And I think there's a good balance too. If you are someone who does struggle with that, like, yeah, push yourself every once in a while. But I do think looking back at my 5 years in college, I wish I learned sooner when to say no and kind of listen to my own body. And I think once I did and I knew, hey, I don't want to go to this, and I don't really care if people are mad at me for not going, but I always felt a lot better the next day rather than pushing myself to go and then feeling like shit and guilty because I didn't listen to myself.
Yeah, even now, sometimes someone will invite me somewhere, but I'm like, oh, tomorrow I want to feel good because I want to get my workout in, or I want to go do this, and I know if I go out, it's going to ruin it. Even if I say I'll get up and
it's not going to be the same.
No.
But I almost feel like it's good that we learn that so early in college, because now that we're out of it, we have no reason to push myself to do everything. If I went to everything that everyone invited me to, I would be exhausted. Right. I couldn't even imagine that. So I'm glad I learned it when I did, even though it took some time. Do you have any moments or experiences that you'd like to share while being of age and drinking and hanging out with your teammates and stuff?
Specifically, I know our school had Dillo Day.
Oh my goodness.
So I think I want to talk about this in terms of athlete mentality around drinking.
It's different. It's elevated. It's like it's a competition within itself.
Yes. So being an athlete, everyone's competitive.
Definitely.
That's just a fact.
It doesn't matter what you're doing.
No.
Walking to class, I'm going to beat you.
Oh, I speed walk to class every class.
Girl.
I think there was actually a joke between a lot of my friends that every time they saw me, I was running to class.
I actually feel like I've seen you and you're so focused. You're going.
Or I was so focused. Do you remember this? People would call my name. Like,
yes.
Oh my God.
You wouldn't answer.
I upset so many people in college because you pass your friends. They like wave and like say hello. No one would ever get a hello back from me because I was so dialed in.
I got to get to math class right now.
I didn't even have math class in college. So it's elevated, and I've been told by coaches, maybe it's like personality too. I may be more elevated. I don't know. I've been told that I have a 0 or 100 personality.
Oh, yeah, I'm the same way. I'm the same exact way. I'm
yes.
0 or 100. If I'm giving it my all, or I'm not giving anything.
So when it comes in terms of drinking, that can provide negative effects.
And positive ones. Mostly negative.
Mostly negative. I can tell you mostly negative.
Yeah.
From a story from high school. Now, I was not supposed to be indulging in said beverages, but I was, and I was around non-athletes. But I think subconsciously I wanted to win.
Yeah. You wanted to be the most drunk.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's also some sort of mindset for younger people.
Definitely. How can I get the most drunk the quickest? And people just like rip like 7 shots in a row.
And I don't think that's talked about enough because as soon as I was of age, the older I get, the less you realize you need to be the most drunk. That's not a good
it's
look.
Not fun.
No, it's not fun.
You don't know where you're at. You are literally like
you don't remember
conscious.
any details from the night before. You didn't have fun because you don't remember shit.
It's almost scary.
It is scary. So I had a scary incident in high school where subconsciously I wanted to win, and I ended up blowing over a 0.3 in the ER.
Shit.
So
I'm glad you're still here.
Yeah, me too. If you Google 0.3, it says unconsciousness or death if you get to that level. So the story is, I was at a party. I actually didn't want to go. I wanted to stay in with my best friend.
Yeah.
But
it's always when you don't want to go. Bad shit happens.
Yeah, so listen to your gut. But Miss Yes Girl at the time went because I think my boyfriend's friend was having a birthday party. I went. I didn't know a lot of the people there, so also like take the edge off. And being an athlete, I went over 100, clearly. Yeah. Boyfriend at the time had to drive me to the ER. I was foaming at the mouth.
No way.
He didn't know if I was breathing. I think he was crying on the way there to the ER. He couldn't even lift me. I was dead weight. Yeah. So 2 of his friends had to lift me in the car. When he got to the ER, it was like Grey's Anatomy scene. 2 doctors rushed out and went to go get me. I was, I think, legally drunk for over 24 hours. Because I had consumed so much in such a short amount of time. And also when you're younger, you don't metabolize alcohol the same.
No, and you have no idea of your limits either because you're probably just starting to do that.
My younger athletes, like, really be careful if you have a 0 or 100 personality. Mm-hmm. Because I ended up fine. But anytime you black out, whether that's a 0.3 or lower, it's really scary.
It's very, very scary, and definitely something to kind of just check in with yourself if you're choosing to indulge. Just again, listen to your body. You don't have to win the race. Like,
it's not a race.
It's not a race. Just,
the goal is to go out and have fun whether you're drinking or not.
Yeah. And
it doesn't matter how much you're drinking as long as you're having a good time.
I will say, for how competitive everyone was at our school, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm actually very thankful that nothing similar to that really happened where I had to take someone to the ER, because I feel like I was so responsible as an upperclassman for all of my younglings who...
That is another thing. Like, if you have a good team culture, there should be older teammates looking out for you. Definitely. I remember being at a party as a freshman, and I don't like beer. It's something I've never liked, and I either didn't want to be drinking that night or just didn't want beer. I had my senior drink for me in a game. So also nice. Like, speak up, because I think I said I didn't want to drink that. And so she did. I don't know if she wanted to either, but they will look out for you. Or hopefully, I remember at every party, just like the overall sentiment was looking out for your younger teammates and making sure no one's going overboard. Totally. That's not like a pass at younger girls to let loose because someone's going to take care of you. Take care of yourself first. Exactly. But as a group, and if you stick with the group, hopefully you can lean on teammates if you have a slip up.
I do think that, yes, lean on your teammates to kind of help you and support you when you need it. But again, don't solely rely on them. And
but also, I think communication.
Communication is key.
If you're getting to a point where you don't feel good, or you need to go home, find someone to get you where you need to be. Yeah. Or get you use your people. Water, or
someone that you trust and is safe, because, I mean, Lord knows other bad stuff can happen when you're intoxicated.
Right. Yeah. Enough said.
So yeah, listen to your body. Ask for help when you need it. But I think there is something to say about you kind of taking accountability. If you're there and you're showing up, you're choosing not to drink or indulge, and you're just there to enjoy and have a good time, saying no to the peer pressure. And it sucks in the moment to constantly say no to everyone around you who's trying to force you to do something you don't want to do, but stand your ground.
Also, after you say no, and maybe you'll take a second or third no, people usually back off.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're
or even someone will come up and be like, oh, she's not drinking.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. The first time, it might be like, oh, hi, I want you to drink with me. And after you say no, they'll be like, oh, come on. And the second time, will be like, oh, she's actually not going to. Yeah. I'm going to go find someone else. So do stand your ground. But going back to, just the elevated competitiveness of athletes, another specific example is we had a day called Dillo Day. Mm-hmm. That was a big concert. It's basically a big party, and everyone, athlete or not.
Well, it's a school-wide event. It was kind of like It's a music festival. So
Yeah.
we had it on the lakefront, and there was some relatively big headliners. One time we had Sean Kingston. We had, what's his name from Euphoria?
We had Dominic Fike.
Who was our freshman year? Someone not great.
It was the rapper. Was he?
A$AP Ferg.
Yes. How would you remember that?
I don't know. The one time I could go to Dillo. So again, school-wide event. I didn't go to the concert at all. And I was pretty much sober because of the previous night.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. So there's a whole day designated for a big campus party.
Yep, it's in the spring. It's towards finals of spring quarter.
But athletes want to take it up a notch.
Of course.
So instead of doing this for 24 hours, we made it 48. The flip side of this is not many athletes actually made it to the concert. I think that's important to note. They are missing the most fun part of all these big headliners just because they're trying to be extra and more intense.
Yeah, so my experience. So we had 80s night. 80s night is everyone dressed up in 80s. You go to this one place. All the athletes are there. You have to be an athlete to get in. I'm pretty sure you had to show your headshot.
Yes,
on
you did.
The website.
Yep.
This is me. And then every athlete gets in. But almost, I would say 85% of the people made the mistake on going way too hard for 80s night. And then the next morning is Dillo. People are waking up at like 6 a.m. to get ready for this all-day marathon. I couldn't do it. I was down bad.
Yes, so either you're showing up to the other stuff late or you're trying to make it work the next morning and then you're just completely missing out on the concert and the real fun part of the whole day.
So 80s night, I went hard my freshman year. I didn't know what to expect the next day. So I went so hard. It was stupid. And then the next day comes around and I didn't get to have fun at all. I was just so hungover.
Athletes are always like, oh, we can rebound.
No, you can't. Just no.
You're not going to rebound that fast. Sorry, that's not how it works. And you learn that the hard way, so maybe anyone listening will actually take our advice and not repeat that and actually have a good time.
I will say one of my favorite memories of college. So the athlete community also had this thing called the Snarty. So it's a snowy day party. So much fun. So it has to have fresh snow on the ground. I remember I was never able to attend my freshman, sophomore, or junior year. It's always in January or early February. So finally, senior year comes around and the annual Snarty has come out. And we're like, oh my God, we don't have practice. Or, oh my God, we have practice in the morning. We can make it. So it was this big, huge event. Just so much fun. Like, best day of my life. One of the best days of my life. The people who are of age, we had this shot ski. So it's a ski, and then you have like holes in it, and you put shot glasses in it. But we had one, and it said "Tits for Fits" because that was the old head coach. Okay, anyways, moving on. Old head coach of the football team. But we brought our shot ski to the Snarty this year, and everyone was like doing shot skis out of it. It was so much fun. It was so much fun.
So if you use your planner correctly,
yes,
you can attend the Snarty. Exactly. Is what we're trying to say.
You have to get all your homework done first.
All your homework has to be finished.
Do you have any more memories that you would like to talk about?
So Halloween is also a big, I think, temptation when it comes to college. And being a fall sport, that was always really, really hard. So I never, during college, got to plan a Halloween costume because assuming we made the Big Ten tournament, we would not be partaking in Halloween.
Yeah. See, I'm on the other side of that. I had like 3 costumes.
Oh my God, Skyler was always so prepared. Skyler killed Halloween.
Dude, I love Halloween.
And then I'd have to like go to, what is it, Halloween Town? What's the store?
Oh, Spirit.
Yes.
Spirit Halloween.
I have to go to Spirit and like throw together like fucking cat ears and like it was horrible. But Halloween was sad being a fall sport athlete.
I think it's just soccer. Everyone else got to go. Everyone else was there, Madison.
Okay. If you're a soccer player, I'm so sorry you will not be partaking in Halloween. But there are other events to look forward to throughout the year. So Definitely. Even, this is actually important, if you're missing out on something that is really fun and even other sports are partaking in, there are other things.
There are so many
You can't
things.
make everyone.
No, you can't make everyone, and there's never going to be a holiday or some event that the entire school or athlete community will be at. Like, my team never got to really enjoy Dillo Day. I only got to my freshman year, and then ever since then, like, we were always playing in regionals, and we would be at home hosting, and freaking Dillo Day was going on, and we had to sit there in our locker room and throw in our smiley faces and go play a softball game while everyone else was partying.
Yeah, so it's a give and take thing. I don't think you got spring break ever.
Nope, never got spring break.
But on the flip side, soccer got a shorter summer. My summer was cut in half, and sometimes people would be home having fun during their summer, but we would be on the grind. So even if you're missing out on something, just realize you're gonna make the next event, and it's just part of the sport you're playing and your own timeline and schedule.
That and the grass is not always greener. Have you ever experienced maybe some conflict or tension between, you know, your athletic responsibility as a student athlete, but also the desire to participate in social activities?
Yes, and I kind of alluded to this early on, but I was injured for 17 months. And even when I wasn't injured, there are times I got in the game, times I didn't get in the game, plenty of games I didn't know with confidence whether I was going to get in or not. And I think for those athletes, it puts you in a unique situation because you're like, why do I have to follow the same rules as someone that is going to actually be performing when maybe I don't have to perform tomorrow? So that is a big tension.
I can imagine. I mean, fortunately, I didn't really get to experience that. I don't say that in a conceited way at all, but yeah, I imagine some of my own teammates were probably going through that as well. Like, well, I'm not going to play today. Well, why does it matter?
Because in your head, you're like, I'm doing this thing because I have a game tomorrow and I'm performing. But for people that might not be performing, I think they're like, oh, this is a double negative.
Definitely.
I can't go out and socialize, and I'm also not playing.
Yep.
And I'm putting all this work into practice and then withholding in my social life, and I'm not getting rewarded. So I think that was always a really hard conflict for me.
I can see that for sure with my teammates. I know I had teammates who have struggled with that, or like withholding the desire to want to attend when they should not, because we do have a game the next day.
And I guess the way you go about that is, again, what is most important to you. And
back to the triangle.
Back to the triangle, and you're only doing this sport for 4 years. Yeah. So you might as well put your best foot forward and give yourself the best chance. And you can go out and hang out with these teammates or other friends for the rest of your life, really. Yeah. Or on your designated have fun days, which there are plenty throughout the year.
Plenty of, more than enough.
More than enough. It's the most amount of events you'll ever have lined up in a single year. I know this now being graduated. Yep. There's no formal dances for me to attend. There's no designated weekends.
It's all the same.
No, it really is.
Yeah.
So you have this, you have to withhold for this one season, but guess what? Your other season, you're going to have the most fun you've ever had.
Yeah, and I mean, the other side of that is once you're done and graduated, unless you're playing pro, you never have to technically withhold again. But I'm almost sitting here, I'm like, damn, I wish I was playing right now so I had like a reason to not indulge.
Yes. So that's So it does give you structure too, which you should kind of appreciate. Yeah. Because I sometimes think people struggle with that. Post-grad now, nobody's telling me I can't go out this weekend, so maybe you're not going to make the best decisions.
And I think it goes back to us listening to your body. I'm almost feeling like I'm a freshman again, and I don't know when to say no, because I'm just like, well,
you don't have an excuse anymore.
Yeah, no, I don't have an excuse. Nothing's stopping me. I can do whatever I want when I want to.
Technically, I can go because I don't have a game tomorrow. Yeah. No higher power is telling me I can't
go.
The
powers that be. Yeah.
No, but that's important. So there will be tension, like I mentioned, like Halloween, or you're not playing, or these other events that go on, whether you have a Snarty or some other label, or the lacrosse house is getting together tonight and
you can't go.
Open invite. Oh, you can't go.
Well, the lacrosse team and my team we never got along.
Yeah, maybe
there was beef.
Maybe we'll talk about that later, but also you will find naturally some sports mesh together, and it does tend to be the sport that's on your same schedule. So fall sports usually hang out with fall sports because
No.
you don't think so?
We never got along with baseball. It was baseball, lacrosse, and us all in spring, and baseball and lacrosse never spoke to us.
Okay, well, I think you were just the redheaded stepchild.
Low key. No one, whatever.
You were in a unique position. I don't know if that happens at every school.
Softball team was just kind of outliers. We just kind of did our own thing.
Which is why I loved you guys.
Very fun. I will say one of the tensions, maybe, I don't want to call it a conflict, but definitely a tension. I think there's a lot of great opportunities for team bonding when you're doing things together outside of practice. I think that's where you build trust, but you can also lose trust with people. And I think that was some of the hardest things to kind of get over when you're going out and, you know, your teammate who's supposed to be like your sister, you're supposed to trust them with your life, and they do something stupid and they break your trust. And then you have to work back to kind of, they have to earn your trust back. And
also,
then
it never goes back to how it was.
It never goes back to how it was. And then it just causes drama on the field. And then your performance as a team, especially in like team sports, like soccer or softball, you have to have trust. It's not like track or swimming where you can just go out there and perform and it doesn't matter. But my team, we function at our highest when we had a high level of trust. And we definitely slipped when we did not have that.
Right.
And a lot of that was resulted in mistakes that were made when people were intoxicated.
I also want to know, and maybe like this will lead to us wrapping up, but all my best memories in college had nothing to do with drinking.
No. There's probably like 3 parties out there that I'm like, this is hands down so much fun. But
okay, yeah,
it was my entire team was there. We were all doing it together. It wasn't just like we weren't scattered. It was like we're all doing this together.
Right. And I think like there's this preconceived notion that every night you're gonna go out and drink is gonna be magical. Guess what? There's so many horrible nights. Like Skyler just said, 3 and 4, 5 years of college technically.
Yeah, 5 years of college, and I have a list of 3 parties that hands down like, best night of my life.
Honestly, I don't even have that list. My memories that I'm racking my brain from drinking, they're all bad, to be honest. Like,
damn.
There are definitely nights I had fun, but they weren't monumental enough where I'm like, that night was so great because of this and this and this.
Yeah. What was one of your favorite memories that didn't include partying? Can you give us an example?
My teammates, this was freshman year, we picked a breakfast spot and we tried to every weekend go and just have brunch on our day off. That was so fun.
Oh, that's so fun.
Or sometimes we would meet at the lake and just like kind of have a little picnic, or we had the rock. So our senior year, we went and all painted the rock together and stuff like that. I remember. And the random house party slipped my head.
Well, yeah, because you don't remember it because you're indulging. But I think that goes to show, yeah, you don't need to drink just to have team bonding. I know we had plenty of stuff. We always did a Secret Santa every year. No one was drinking during that. It was so much fun.
Right.
And to give each other meaningful gifts. That's some of my favorite memory that I have off the field.
Or just like going and meeting up with your 3 closest teammates and getting coffee.
Yeah.
I remember that and looking forward to that and that being so much more impactful than a night out.
And some of my other teammates and I have been talking that when we look back on our memories of the past 4 or 5 years that we had playing, it's all like the hard stuff, but it turned out like being great. So the hard practices, the hard conditioning, those are so memorable. But again, it just goes to show you're not drinking, you're not partying together, but you're going through some hard shit. I have to run these 10 150s right now, and this is hard. But guess what? We did it, and we're closer because of it.
Right. That'll always bond you more than the drinking game. I promise
100%.
And I will say all my friends I've accumulated my entire life, all my closest friends, always met them through my sport. Never met them for the first time at a party. Yeah. I'm going to be honest.
No, yeah. You always met them playing or when you're not intoxicated.
So if like part of the reason you're going out is to meet people, this goes for boyfriends as well.
Yep.
I've never met a guy that went somewhere serious at a party.
You're so right.
Never have.
Well, I guess my boyfriend and I, we met when we were at a party. Here we are. We're together.
Okay.
There's one-offs.
there's one-offs, but it's like Skyler said in her 3 memorable nights, the one memorable guy from the party.
The one.
Yeah, and there were many trials.
Exactly.
So
that's so valid though. I always categorize myself like when I'm when I'm partying, even now, my party brain comes on and I'm the most social. I am so much fun. But are those people that I'm talking to, are they my closest friends? Absolutely not.
Right.
Absolutely not.
This is a thing too in college and after college, but I feel like you have your core group of people you go to when you're having a crisis. You know, they actually have your back. Like, you're very connected. And then you have your party friends.
Yeah.
That you know you're going to go and have a good time when everyone's drinking. Would you go to that person for help? No.
Nope. Well, also, especially with an athletic community, I vividly remember parties where all the athletes would be there and we'd all be having a grand time. Everyone loves each other. This is so great. And then the next morning,
They wouldn't talk to you.
yes, you see them in the hallway.
You could
and
wave.
Heads down.
Oh my God, yes.
Heads down, and like maybe a smile. But like, what the hell?
You could wave and they wouldn't wave back.
Yeah.
Oh, like you were talking about with softball being outlawed as like the cool sport. I'm sure there are baseball players that talk to you at the party, and guess
Yep.
what?
We
At
did
lunch
not
the next
exist.
day,
We did not exist.
invisible.
Yeah. So make your memories outside of drinking. I think that's what we're kind of saying.
Pick and choose your moments.
Yeah.
Be smart. Know your priorities and have fun. And soak up those 4 years, and you're gonna be just fine.
And last but not least, but just a piece of advice for incoming college athletes about, managing your social life, but know your limits, be smart, be safe, ask for help when you need it, and just remember why you came to school. You came to school to maybe play or, get your degree, and don't let partying kind of take over your life. And going back to the triangle, partying is not everything, I promise you. So get help if you do need it. There is a national helpline for substance abuse and mental health. Please call the 1-800-662-HELP if you need help or assistance with substance abuse or alcoholism. Thank you very much for listening, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. Email us, DM us, reach out to us, and we look forward to next week. But thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate all of you. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all of the socials, and just follow along with our story. Okay. Bye.